My name's Jessica Rohde, and I am the web manager and communications officer for IARPC. I've been doing this work for a little over 4 years now. Oh, there's Stas. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for joining. And part of my role in this position is to help engage early career scientists in the work that we're doing because you guys are doing some of the most awesome cutting edge work, and we like to make sure you're included in what we're doing. And I really get a kick out of it. I think you guys are fun to work with. So I'm happy to show you around our community today. So I am a nomad, so I'm frequently connecting to these meetings from various countries. Right now I'm in Central America and Panama. But for example, in the past year, I was traveling quite a bit in Europe. I went to the Arctic for the first time. I went to Tromsø, Norway, and Abisko, Sweden. But today I'm joining you from Panama. And I'm sharing that with you because I think it's fun when you're on these big international meetings to just share where you're actually located, where you're calling in from, as well as your name and maybe a little bit about your, if you're a student, what your research is, or if you have a job, what your career path is. So why don't we just go around our little Zoom room and do little introductions. Maybe Emily, do you want to go next? They probably already know you, but.
Sure, I'll make it quick. I'm Emily Osbourne. I am the IASC Fellowship Program Coordinator, and I live in Washington, D.C., which is where I'm calling you from today. And I work at NOAA in our Arctic Research Program. So good to see all of you guys this morning. Thanks for calling in. IARPC is something that I've worked with pretty closely over the last few years here at NOAA, and I'm really excited for Jessica to share this community with you.
How about Clay? Do you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Clay Prater, like it says on the screen there, and I'm a postdoc at Loughborough University in the UK. But I work up in southwestern Greenland right now. Well, not right now. In a couple of weeks, I'll go back. And we're doing a project looking at the effects of glacially derived dust on lake ecosystems around Kangerlussuaq in southwestern Greenland.
I didn't quite hear it. Glacial dust? Is that what you said?
Yeah, glacial dust. Yeah. So obviously the ice sheets are retreating, and they produce a ton of material that gets dried out and dumped in our lakes, and causes a lot of changes in the system.
Oh, that's a new term for me. I've never heard of glacial dust before, but that makes sense.
We call it glacial flour as well. That's like they'll use it as like fertilizer in plants and stuff. It's dropping Miracle-Gro into your lake, basically.
Gotcha. Okay. I imagine it's actually like really big pieces of rock though, right? Like not dusty.
No, they're probably like most of the dust gets transported as like 30 micrometers or something, because it has to be like, picked up by the wind, basically. So it's pretty small. I mean, there are really big pieces. Yeah, you're right. Like whenever it comes out of underneath the glacier, you can have huge boulders and stuff. Stuff that actually gets picked up is much smaller.
Yeah. I remember so I do have a science background. I forgot to mention my background. So I studied biology in undergrad and fisheries science, and I got my master's at the University of Washington, but I've been doing science communication since then. But I remember from geology class that glaciers drop big boulders.
Yes.
Anyway, okay, nice to meet you, Clay. And how about Barbara? Would you like to go next?
Yes, sure. So I'm a PhD student. I'm on the last stage of my PhD project right now, and I'm focused on changes of glacier facies. So glacier is divided into accumulation and ablation zone, but we can also distinguish some smaller zones like firn, superimposed ice, and they differ in various properties. So because of the climate changes, the extents of glacier fasces are also changes. Are also changing. So I'm using remote sensing data as well as terrestrial data, such as ground penetrating radar, to track those changes, to monitor how the climate change, how the climate influence is influencing the glacier zones.
Okay, cool. A lot of words I didn't understand there, but that's okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was trying to make it
Yes, she's obviously the one to talk to you about the glaciers. I studied like downstream from the glaciers. Like,
okay. And where are you located, Barbara?
So I live in Krakow. I study in Katowice, but now I'm in Warsaw, Poland. So
Okay.
yeah. So I'm also traveling a bit, but not so far as you.
That's still
in one
pretty
country. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Nice to meet you, Barbara. And then is it Stas or Stas?
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Stas. I've been studying at University of Zurich, and now I'm IASC fellow for 2018 for social and human group working group. And I've been working for social and human, social and ecological systems,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, dealing with climate change and social ecological systems and political transformations.
Okay.
Yeah, and now I'm affiliated. I'm at the stage of seeking for a postdoc,
Mm-hmm.
and currently I'm in Siberia, so in the Arctic. Yeah.
Wow, you're connecting from the Arctic. You must have good
Yeah.
bandwidth.
And you know, you see my background is just very Arctic
Yeah.
setting.
Yeah. Okay, so two more questions. So you're looking for a postdoc, Stas.
Yeah, exactly.
And Barbara and Clay, are you guys students or postdocs, or what's your career stage?
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm done with my PhD in Switzerland,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm searching for some postdoc positions.
Okay.
Something in social sciences.
Okay. And then Clay and Barbara, how about you guys?
I'm a postdoc. I'm about halfway through my first postdoc. So who knows, I might be looking for another one at some point relatively soon.
Okay.
And I'm a PhD student, but I'm finishing my PhD in, hopefully, fingers crossed, 1 year, more or less, something like this.
Right. Okay, you did mention that. Okay, great. Well, part of the thing I like to focus on when I talk to early career scientists about IARPC is the networking opportunities that we have. There's some really awesome scientists doing great things with IARPC, and they love to connect with especially early career scientists on the work that they're doing. So I think as you're thinking about where your career can go, IARPC can be a really good tool for you, and I'll show you how to use it to network a little bit, as well as just to learn more about, we cover so many different fields of science. So I think it's also a really good tool for becoming a more interdisciplinary scientist, particularly in the U.S. At the National Science Foundation, which funds so much of our work. There's a big emphasis on interdisciplinarity in Arctic research. So I think you can use it as a tool to learn a little bit more outside of your discipline. So I know Barbara just requested an account. Clay and Stas, did you guys already request accounts on the website?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Okay. You don't have to do it right now, but I just want to make sure you do.
No.
And I'm going to share my screen here and just show you a little introduction to what IARPC is. Let's go back to the start. So this is a presentation that I created, and it lives on the About page of our website if you ever want to go back and revisit any of this information. This is kind of the story of IARPC, how we came to be, and what we're working on. And there's a lot of information on this page. Lots of our reports, references to policy that guides us and created us. So I'll just jump right into the presentation. So the acronym is IARPC. It stands for the Interagency Arctic Research Policy Committee, and it's pronounced IARPC. Some people try to say IARPC. I think it's easier to say IARPC. And yes, of course, it's one of those acronyms. We have so many acronyms with I's and A's and S's and C's and R's. So it might take a while for you to remember the one that we are. So the committee is just the tip of the iceberg. We practice open government, which means that in the research that we're conducting, we've consulted our research community to decide what we're going to do, as well as to actually do that research. So how we do that, back to the start, IARPC was created by our US Congress, an act of Congress in 1984. And this act actually created us as well as our sister organization, the US Arctic Research Commission. And we kind of work together in that the Research Commission develops every 2 years a set of goals and objectives. And then we use those goals and objectives to write this plan. And the plan says what we're actually going to do as researchers. So one thing that I want to include here later that's not included right now is to say that Congress created us because there are so many different federal agencies in the US federal government that are doing research in the Arctic. For example, NASA has satellites that sense ice. NOAA has ships that go out into the Arctic Ocean. And so the reason Congress created us was to make sure that all of those different agencies are working together, are coordinating what they're doing, and they're getting more research out of the taxpayers' dollars. They're coordinating their efforts. So these are the agencies that make up the IARPC committee. You probably didn't know that all of these existed, but let me tell you, there's many more. And then back in 2011, when Obama was in the White House, he decided to put our executive director in the White House itself, in this place called the Eisenhower Executive Office Building, in the Office of Science and Technology Policy. So we're still there today. This is the structure of that. Although we don't have an executive director right now, usually our executive directors are appointed for 2-year periods. They're rotators from other agencies. So anyway, we hope to have a new one soon. So these are the entities that we work with to develop our Arctic research plan. We work very closely with the state of Alaska, since that is how the U.S. Has interests in the Arctic. We also work with the Research Commission, the IARPC principals themselves, the people who are from the federal agencies and sit on the committee, and as well as community knowledge that's produced by institutions such as the National Research Council. I think that's who produced the Arctic and the Anthropocene. And then we even accept comments from the public via this document called the Federal Register, and we have to respond to every comment that comes from anybody, whether they're a scientist or not, and incorporate their thoughts into our research plan. So it really is a document that we think represents a broad range of interests in Arctic research. So So this is the plan that we're working on now, published in 2016, and it covers 5 years of work that all of these institutions in the US are going to do. And just to give you a quick overview of what's in it, it's a policy-driven plan. So we have 4 policy drivers that help to guide us in deciding what our research should be. So the drivers are to enhance the well-being of Arctic residents, advance stewardship of the environment, strengthen regional and national security, as well as improve understanding of the Arctic in the global system. And then what you're going to see now on this circle diagram is our research goals. Each research goal is being implemented by a different team of scientists within the IARPC community. And I'm just going to fill in here how this research goal intersects with these policy drivers. So if we have research that we're actually doing in health and well-being, that's enhancing regional and national, or sorry, this is stewardship, enhancing stewardship of the Arctic environment, you see a check there. So we have a research goal on health and well-being, atmosphere, sea ice, marine ecosystems, glaciers and sea level, permafrost, terrestrial ecosystems, and coastal resilience. So a lot of these things, I think, are things that the IASC working groups are working on, probably. And we try to consider the IARPC as sort of the arm that IASC has to the US research community. So we're doing a lot of the work that IASC wants to report back on within the international working groups. Because of that, oops, sorry, I forgot about environmental intelligence. Sorry, Emily. So environmental intelligence is our team that ties it all together at the center. It encompasses observing systems, modeling, and data, the convergence of those 3 things to inform decision-making at all levels, from individuals who live in the Arctic and decide how to use the Arctic up to policymakers. So that's kind of a new term that we've sort of invented and embraced within IARPC, and specifically at NOAA, where Emily's running their Arctic program. Let's see. So let's see. Stas, could you go to mute? I think there's a little background noise coming from your end.
I'm sorry. Yeah, sure.
So I've just told you a bunch about IARPC as this federal enterprise, all of these US federal government researchers working together. But we all recognize that there's so much more research, important research happening outside of the federal government. And so we created IARPC collaborations to connect with those non-federal researchers and to partner with them in what we're working on. So you can think of it as an iceberg. The IARPC committee itself is this federal-only committee of just a few people. And then we created IARPC collaborations to include this non-federal community. And we have partners from all different sectors working on these collaboration teams. These are the 9 teams that correspond with the research goals that I just told you about. And the people on those teams represent a really wide array of organization types. So we have plenty of international people, indigenous organizations, researchers from academia, and even researchers from NGOs and industry organizations who all collaborate with us on these teams to implement the research in our plan. So this is an example of a team that I think, Stas, you might be particularly interested in, although Clay and Barbara, you probably would be as well. This is the Coastal Resilience Collaboration Team, and they're particularly interested in strengthening communities that are being affected by changing Arctic. And they actually have quite a few team members who are from indigenous organizations. I'd say it's one of our most diverse teams. So you can see the team leaders on the right, and they represent, they manage programs similar to Emily. They have budgets and research, and they are deciding, you know, what's going to get funded in their research area. and they're working together on this team to see what the community is actually working on to include it in their reporting. So 3 of these leaders, this is outdated, we have a new leader that's not Simon, but 3 of these leaders are from federal agencies, federal program managers, and then Carolina Behe is one of our non-federal partners from the Inuit Circumpolar Council. This is a little video they made, which I'm not going to play for you now in the interest of time, but it's just kind of inviting people to join their team and asking them what kind of research they want to discuss as a community. And then this is what a team meeting looks like. It's on Zoom just like this. All of these people turn on their webcams and have their smiling faces ready to show and discuss the research that they're doing. A typical agenda looks like this. Usually we have a couple of presentations on some really interesting topics, time for discussion, and then we also have time at every meeting for anybody who's part of this research community to share what they're working on, what they've recently published, what they might like to cover at upcoming meetings, to just get to know each other and network. And I think that's what makes these meetings really valuable, especially for you guys as early career scientists, to get your name out there, to get to know people who you might be collaborating with or who might hire you in the future. This is the really valuable part. So a few more reasons that you might get value out of IARPC. I think it's really great that you get to be part of federal policy, actually implement federal research policy and have your work included in our reporting that goes to our governing bodies in the United States. Our reports go to leaders of federal agencies every year, and then biennially we also report to Congress on this research plan. As I mentioned before, it's kind of like a conference where you can network and get to know people without traveling. Every time we have a collaboration team meeting, the program managers, the team leaders who are running the meetings, they love that every month they get to see what their research community is up to, what they're thinking about, and get to know them a little better. And then those researchers in turn are benefiting because they're getting to know what research is being thought about in funding agencies that they might later apply for funding from. And as an early career scientist, we actually have a few researchers who are early career and who are leading some of our collaboration teams, and they really emphasize including their work with IARPC on the biographical sketch part of their grant proposals when they're applying for funding. And not to mention, it's just a great way to develop partnerships that you might not normally have the opportunity to find because there is such a diverse community found in IARPC. So the website is what I'm going to show you next. This is where our community connects with each other in between team meetings and shares information. It's kind of like a social media website. If you guys use Facebook or Twitter, it's basically like Facebook for scientists. So anybody can make a post. For example, this is a post on a paper this researcher recently published. And after you post it, it gets included in our email digest that goes out to everybody on the website once a week on Tuesdays. And you'll get it in your inbox once you have an account, and you can see the types of things that are being shared. One of the other major things that is shared on our website is when there's funding opportunities. But you can post really anything. If you've got a talk coming up at a conference, we get a lot of people posting their AGU or their Polar, their ASSW talks and posters on the website, inviting people to come see them. Any kind of events you're hosting, webinars, or even just, I like to post papers that I didn't myself publish, but I think people on my teams would be interested in seeing. This says 1,500, but we're now up to 1,900 members. So here's just a few more numbers. that actually should be updated. Oh, my to-do list is so long. Okay, someday I will update those numbers. But now to show you a little bit more about how we connect to IASC. So when you're logged into the website, you'll see your name up here. That's how you know you're logged in. And then all of these options are available to you. So the very first thing I recommend you do, and you'll actually get an email from me after you request an account that has this information, go to the team page and you can literally, I've already joined them all, but if you haven't joined them, there'll be a big blue join button right there. And you can just join as many teams as you want. It doesn't mean you have to do anything as a member of that team. It just means when they have a meeting, you'll receive an email with the agenda and the connection info, and you're welcome to join them and see what they're talking about that month. And you'll also see in your email digest, the posts that are in it will be prioritized towards those topics that you've indicated that you're interested in by joining these teams. And so these teams right here at the top are the ones that are implementing the Arctic Research Plan. But because our website is so useful for sharing information amongst community members, we've also created what we call self-forming teams. And that's for organizations that can use this infrastructure to share with each other what they're working on for communication and for even outreach within the rest of the Arctic research community. And that's why we created the IASC forum, which I will show you right now. It does say US forum, but I think anybody is welcome to join this team, this self-formed team, and share information. And I highly recommend you do. So as I mentioned before, you can kind of see us as the US arm to IASC, but we do have lots of international members. And I think as you network in your careers, especially in Arctic research, you never know where you might, what country you might end up in. So I hope that you will request an account, join some of these teams, start sharing your papers or your research ideas by posting to the site, and attend a few team meetings to get to know people that might be potential collaborators or employers in the future. So I know I've been talking for a long time. Did you guys have any questions? Okay.
I do have a. I'm sorry.
That was a really nice introduction to the website and everything, so thank you.
Oh, great. Thanks, Clay. Sorry, what were you saying, Stas?
Yeah, thank you for presentation. It looks really interesting. And I was just wondering, how large is the representation of social science at your committee?
So the two social science teams are Coastal Resilience, and we also have a health and well-being team. And if you go to these pages, you can see everything about the team, including the official profile of what they're working on, or the team members who are on it. That might be most valuable to you. So if you click on team members, you can see every person who's participating in this team. And there are quite a few.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And then you can just keep loading more. Not all of these people show up to every meeting, but there are a lot of people who show up consistently and find value in interacting with this community regularly. If you want to see some of the research that they're working on, I'm going to go back to let's click the back button. The performance elements are the actual pieces of research that they're implementing. So in particular, if you browse these and see what they're working on, if any of your research relates to that performance element, it might be beneficial for you to share it as a post, or we might even consider including you as a presenter at one of these collaboration team meetings. And you can see some of these are pretty broadly worded, and that's because we want to capture as much of the research that's going on as possible. So it might not be that difficult for you to find a performance element that relates to your work. Okay. So Stas, just be sure to request an account on the website. Barbara and Clay, you probably already got an email from me that says useful resources. Yeah, take a look through that, and I just recommend exploring. And the number one thing I think is to join a few teams. And please feel welcome to attend any meeting you want and to share what you're working on. As I mentioned, this community really wants to engage more with early career scientists, so they're excited to hear from you and see what you're working on. And let me know if you have any questions on how you might best interact with the community.
I have one question, actually.
Okay.
As far as I understand, this is a tool for communication, right? So there is no possibility, for example, to apply for some grants, wherever, directly from IARPC.
So
to find, for example, information about grants, conferences, whatever.
right. So IARPC itself does not fund research, but we're comprised of the people who do fund research, like Emily at NOAA or some other team leaders at NSF, who decide what gets funded. And this is the place that they come to make those funding announcements. And lots of other opportunities as well. A team that I work really closely with, the STEM education team, Arctic STEM education, they're planning a workshop. They want to have a workshop of PIs working in Arctic education in the Arctic. And they're going to be doing all the announcements of that on this website. So there are lots of opportunities to engage. And if you make sure that you join the teams that your research is related to, you'll see those opportunities in your email digest.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. Well, thanks, you guys. This has been really fun. I know it's a lot of information, but you'll be seeing some more emails from me to help guide you in your interactions with IARPC.